O mighty Edward, great king of close order, the imperishable, Kemi Kara, king of kings, opener of the way, wielder of the divine flame, punisher of nomads, the great unifier, this goes on, commander of the Golden Legion, sacred of appearance, bringer of light, father of hawks, builder of cities, protector of the two worlds, keeper of the hours, it's still going, chosen of Tra, high steward of the horizon, sailor of the great Vitae, sentinel of the two realms, the undisputed, begetter of the begat, scourge of the faithless, carrion feeder, first of the charnel valley, rider of the sacred chariot, mighty lion of the infinite desert, lord of the shifting sands, he who holds the scepter, we're almost there, great hawk of the heavens, walker of the Hyro Titan, monarch of the sky, king of the shifting sands, champion of the gods.
Right, three things. First of all, I've told you, you're not getting a raise. Second of all, nobody likes an arse kisser. And third of all, I'm so sorry to any of the podcast listener. You've just had the entirety of the first chapter of a book. So welcome to episode 10 of Close Order. I am joined, as always, by Lewis. How are you doing today, Lewis?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. I felt like I needed to praise you for a little bit because you don't get enough self-praise.
Yeah, like the last thing I need is more boosts to my ego. So maybe we stick away from that one. But yeah, no, it's been a couple of weeks. I don't think I've actually done very much in the last 2 weeks. I posted videos and stuff, but I don't think I've painted much in terms of like done much hobby. How about yourself? Have you done much?
I have done loads of hobby. Well, not necessarily in the last 2 weeks. I have this month been powering through the painting, very conscious that LGT is only a few weeks away, end of September. So desperately need to get the army finished. But
I need to pick which army I'm taking.
Yes, you definitely need to do that. Maybe get some practice in, just so we don't embarrass ourselves at our first big event. I feel like I'm starting my old world tournament career in a particularly extreme way, but it's going to be a great weekend, I think.
Perfect. All right, we've got a few people in the chat. Good evening to you, Existence. Hello, Liam. Yes, neither did I. I didn't realize he was going to read an entire novel. More Robot Wars content. That's a different Sandy guy. Yes, I'm well known for my love of the beach. And Orr says, I'm painting the Bretonians in my list for the tourney that he's at this weekend. That's my sort of commitment to getting a list painted. Today we are, in fact, talking about the Capital City Bloodbath games because I woke up this morning, went, got a podcast on. I don't think we're talking about anything. Open Discord. Orson Mesh would be like, do you want to see the list for this tournament that's going on? There's loads of players in Canada doing a big event. Hell yeah, I do. That's resolved all of those issues. But before we get into that, I'd like to thank all of you, well, specifically 3 of you, and that is the members of the channel, and that is Morpheus. I always want to call him Mechanicus. It's not. It's Mechanite, and the third one, whose name I always get wrong as well. I'll come back to that one. You can see I'm feeling really with it today. I didn't mention it to you in the pre-game. I'm off work. I'm a bit unwell at the moment.
Oh really? Oh no.
Yeah. Well, the show goes on. But thank you to all. Thanks for the support, etc., etc. I'll do another one when my brain wakes up later on down the line. So, do you want to start off by telling us what you've done for your hobby? Because I know you've done a few bits and pieces.
Indeed, I have. So, I am basically almost there with 2,000 points of vampire counts. We had a bit of a last-minute list change to get a Mortis engine in there after a couple of games, where my Necromancer keeps dying. So there's some models now that I've painted I don't necessarily need, but I think I'm basically there. That Mortis engine has arrived in the shop. I just need to go and pick it up. But yeah, so I needed to finish a few more skeletons, some Graveguard, my Tomb Banshee, and my Vampire on Zombie Dragon, Alicia von Karstein riding Shroud. But starting with my Tomb Banshee, as you can see on the screen now, so podcast listeners, you'll have to imagine a Tomb Banshee, which has been converted from the Craven Throne guard kit, taken away the little crossbows that they're armed with, and kept her little pointy fingers. So she looks like she's pointing at someone and saying, "I'm going to scream at you." But I had to play around with contrast paints, Ed. I've always been quite a traditional painter in terms of like base coats, layers, highlights, washes, in whatever order that's supposed to happen in. I haven't really played around that much with contrast paints, but obviously anyone that plays Sigmar will know the Nighthawk range very much lends itself to contrast paints because you get that kind of weird glowy green effect, which on the bottom of the Banshee, where all the kind of like spiritual energy is flying up. And I knew that because I was buying a Mortis engine, I wanted to practice on a small model so I could be happy with the combination of paints, because this is literally all this is a Grey Seer base and then Hexwraith Flame over Nighthaunt Gloom. Or other way around, sorry, a Hexwraith Flame, then Nighthawk Gloom. And you literally just slap it on. You don't really have to do anything.
Did you do any wet blending, or have you literally just
No, honestly, you put the Hexwraith Flame on, let it dry, and then just whack the Nighthawk Gloom over the top, and it kind of sorts itself out. Which, as I say, it's not my normal style. Normally, I'm going around each edge, highlighting it all, and just picking out all the different bits that I want to, and getting my colours right and things like that, which you've seen on the rest of them. But it was quite good fun, actually. So I'm very much looking forward to painting the Mortis engine and painting up my I almost called them endless spells there. That's technically what they are, but my vortexes, which are also going to be all spiritual and weird. So yeah. It's been good. But yeah, I have also finished. If it'll go to the next photo. No,
well, before you could go back, because I want to just talk about for a moment. If you haven't, and this is maybe preaching to the choir, because we're now like 6 or 7 years in for the whatchamacallums, the what's the word for it? Contrast paints. Incredible stuff. They are so good. I did, when they came out, an entire Demon's Army using them. Let me just pull that up on my screen. Oh, spoilers. What are we getting to in a second? So here here's some completely contrast painted Nurgle demons. Not that one. So that was my first foray into very basic wet blending, just getting a transition. But like
really good.
with very basic amounts of effort, you can just get incredible results on models that have that sort of like ethereal texture or long wispy textures. But yeah, back to your models. That's just the sort of thing that you can do with the contrast paints, and if you haven't given them a go, I definitely recommend it.
Definitely. No, they're for sure. They are. They can really revolutionise painting, especially for people that aren't really big fans of painting, where it can be a bit of a chore. And the fact you can literally just slap it on and it gives you the effect you need is brilliant. So I've been enjoying experimenting. But yeah, so I thought, tell you what, skeletons, 5 skeletons, 45 of them done now. Technically 5 more to go, but I've changed the list, so I don't really need 50 anymore. I only need sort of 35. So I'm kind of done on skeletons, but it feels like having 5 that I haven't painted yet just sitting there looking at me seems a bit odd. So I'll try and get them done. But there's another 5 skeletons in the classic my scheme now with the cool looking metal and the blue cloth. So they've come up really nicely. Ranking them all up together, they look pretty creepy. So I'm really happy with how they're coming out as a unit, which is nice. But you just look at that and go, the amount of work that took, and it's only 25 points of my army. But we'll worry about why we don't play lots of infantry in the future. So I've got my Graveguard, and you will notice, Ed, on screen that these Graveguard have great weapons, and the first 10 of my Graveguard have hand weapons and shields. So I've done it now, so I don't actually care what your opinion is, but I would appreciate your opinion on whether you think it's acceptable to have a block of infantry that is technically equipped differently. So we have been trialling backwards and forwards between running Graveguard with hand weapons and shields and running them with great weapons. And I can't really decide what's better. I think there's advantages and disadvantages to both. So what I'm effectively going to do is going to have the front 2 ranks with the weapons that they're actually equipped with, and the back 2 ranks will have the great weapons or whichever the equivalent is. So when you're looking at the front of the unit, it's very clear what it's equipped with, and obviously you take your casualties from the back. So by the time I start losing models, the last models are going to be equipped as they are properly. But I don't know whether that's a taboo, and I shouldn't do that. But it felt better than having to paint another 20 Graveguard with different weapons.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I don't think anyone would have an issue with it. I probably would have just made a second unit, but then again, that's just glutton for punishment. I'd justify it. I'd be like, I'll use the second unit at some point, and then I'm just sat with 40 Graveguard and never never run any of them. But yeah, no, they look great. Really like the like obviously the paint's great. I feel like I've said that enough times now that I don't have to give you the same compliment for rank and file infantry painted to the same
Feel
careful
free to
standard.
give me the compliment.
No, I'm done
I'll
with it. I love the models though. Like I really like the Graveguard. They're a nice one. I'm in the market for. Was there anything else that you had hobby wise that you had done? Have you talked about all of the painting that you've managed to get done?
Not quite, Edward. Here she is. You've all been waiting. There she is, Alicia von Carstein on the close order named Shroud. She is done. She is ready. And if I do say so myself, she looks a badass.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So for anyone who has joined us in the last 3 months, given that the channel is now about four and a half months old, back when this channel had about 200 viewers, we got suggestions for names and viewer votes on the name for this dragon. So that's a little bit of backstory there for you.
Yeah. So very, very good choice. I think Shroud. It was very close between that and a couple of others, but
I think I voted for Fluffy or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Fluffy did come close to winning.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this has been very interesting because clearly, obviously, this is not the Games Workshop model. Sorry, Games Workshop. I don't like your zombie dragon. But so it's one that a guy on Etsy sorted out for me. And the Vampire Lord riding, so Alicia.
Hold on, sorry, I'm gonna have to go back. A guy on Etsy sorted out for me. You bought the model, man. Why are you making it sound like you've gone around the back and done a dodgy dealing?
We have done dodgy deals because he makes dragons, like model dragons, but they're like really small.
Oh yeah.
So I messaged him saying, I love that dragon. Can you scale it up so it fits? So it would be like sort of suitable scale for 100 by 150 mil base.
Yeah.
And he did some playing around with his printing and was able to make it work. So it's very good. So I have a bespoke dragon of a size that not anyone else has access to.
Fair enough.
Unless you message that man who's very helpful on Etsy and Ganon 3D, I think his name was. Now he knows how to do it. I'm sure whatever size dragon you want. But speaking of scale, I think
I want a real one.
I want it to be 100 foot long, and I want it to actually be a zombie.
I want it at 1-to-1 scale, please.
I want it to arrive on the back of a lorry.
I want it to be flying and carrying the lorry. Hop 2, chip. Anyway, I think you were going to say some words about it.
Yes, I was going to say something about scale because obviously the vampire riding the zombie dragon is not like it's not like a kit. You buy the dragon and the rider together. So there was like a free thing. I think it's Miniature Maker or Mini Titan Maker or something like that. You normally make D&D models with it, but they had a weekend where they'll do you like free designs for 3D printing, where you can just design and make your own character. So I made Alicia on this online thing, and you just like change heads and change weapons and change sizes and stuff. I made that myself, and then a very nice person in our local community that has a 3D printer printed her out for me. But we had a few attempts printing her out because first time she came out and she was like 6 inches tall, and I was like, not quite sure that's going to fit on top of the dragon. So we had to scale it down a bit. Then we came out with one that was like half an inch tall. I was like, we've gone slightly too far the other way. But we now have a vampire lord that is, I think, about the right size. I think if you put her on the ground, she is a bit bigger than the skeletons, so I don't think she'd quite fit on a 25 mil base. But actually, because she's riding Shroud and on such a big model, it actually makes her look smaller from the perspective of looking at all next to each other. So I think she works all right. I think we could probably do slightly smaller, but actually I'm really happy with how she's come out. So done really well. You're muted, Ed, for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why. So I could suspend my disbelief there for her being a bit bigger. That makes sense. Vampires, supernatural beings. James Schofield has a question for you. Love the Graveguard. Did you use a textured roller for the bases?
Ah, thank you, James. That's very kind of you. No, I got those off Etsy as well. Off someone, I think Beneath Your Toes on Etsy. They make all sorts of different 3D. Yeah,
Step on
well,
me,
you know,
Teddy.
they're a base company. I think it's quite good. I think it's quite a clever name. Yeah, so they make again. They made stuff for mostly D&D. So again, I had to go through a kind of a messaging process and say, can you scale these up to Games Workshop, especially the 100 by 150 mil bases for the dragons, because they don't, why would they make bases that size for D&D? But again, they very kindly scaled them up for me. So yeah, no textured rollers involved.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll pop back to the big head just for a moment because I want to show you the hobby that I've been doing. And you know, the VIP channel has had this sneak peek already, but we had a discussion a few weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago now, where it was decided that if you haven't painted anything, buying models does still count as hobby. So here's what I've done for my hobby, and it's by 2 Stormdrake Guard, which is basically a box with 2 dragons on, and the riders I don't care about. I don't care they're Stormcast. I'm going to do something with
Just
it.
want the dragons.
Yeah, because I think I just want to play a double dragon list. I want to play something that is 2 dragons. I haven't worked out what it is. I have some ideas. I have some front runners. But do whack in the comments what you think I should play with double dragons.
Yeah, so they're not undead dragons, are they? By looks,
Well, that's the thing.
enough.
One of the forerunners is Tomb Kings because their
Okay.
dragons are cheap, 215 points for a bone dragon. Now, it's not as good as other sorts of dragons, so that's something. But that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, and you can put that stupid armor on that have to re-roll all successful
Only on one of them.
successful wounds against it. Well, yeah, one of them, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're not running 2, then you make one that's just nigh on unkillable bastard thing.
Yeah, so I need to work out what I'm doing. I am thinking Dark Elves. That is the front runner for me. I've got an interesting list that I own next to none of the models for, nor have I built and or painted any of them at all. But that's fine. We've got loads of time.
Are we thinking a double dragon is going to happen for LGT? Is that the plan, or
That's like
is this
6
just
weeks away. I might have...
Yeah, you'll be on 4 different armies by then. But
Well, that's the thing. I've got another TSN Arena event, one of the square-based events, in 2.5 weeks' time. So what I'm thinking is, do I have the funds to pull it together? That's the limiting factor. It's been a tight month. I've had to shell out for a lot of things. I've got to pay for accommodation for going to LGT and yada yada. So I'm not sure whether I can realistically do that, but I might. Yeah, I'll probably take them to LGT because here's the spoiler: LGT, they are using smaller table sizes because they don't have the actual 6x4 mats by the looks of things. So they're using the whatever it is, the 60 by 44 inches, which means you've got a little bit less room to hide, which means all of those gun lines and all of those wood elf lists that want to sit back just a little bit worse. And it's a little bit easier for me to just shove dragons at you. It's harder for you to hide when you've got 2 inches less space to sit back in your deployment zone.
Yeah, exactly. It's I think it's important. I've seen lots of people talking about this, and it doesn't change the distance between the armies. So you still start the same distance apart.
Yeah.
Your deployment zone is just shallower, effectively. So you can't, if you want to place yourself on the back line is a bit closer to your opponent's front of their deployment zone. So it just gives you. Sometimes it is, you say, it's only 2 inches, but that could be a turn, or that could be a charge that would have been failed is now successful.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. Well, now I have woken up. We're 20 minutes in with this is the first conversation I think I've had with a human being all day. By the
God help us all.
Yeah, and that's why the words out of my mouth didn't come out super cleanly. But I do want to take a moment to say that this channel and everything on it is brought to you by you. Thank you so much for all of your support, all of the likes and the comments and the watchings and all of the stuff there. Big thanks as well to the supporters of the channel, the members, including the Grail Knight tier supporters, which, as I said before, Morpheus Gaming, Mechanite, and Krieghammer. Really appreciate that. Now that I've done that in a more smooth way, we can move on to the meat and potatoes of the show. And that is, we're going to be looking at some lists from the capital city bloodbath. First time we did a list review show, we just looked at every list, and there were about 20 of them. And that took, I think, an hour and a half. So we decided not to do that again. So
we're waiting to improve here, Ed, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm now seeing that they're spelling capital the correct way, and I, for some reason, thought it was capital. I should probably fix that in the title.
That's
But
Risk, isn't it? If you ever played the Risk board game, they called it Capital there.
Well, as you can see as well, it's lists with plenty of S's. So it's a spicy one. So this is an event out in Canada. Capital City Bloodbath is a long-standing event. I've got to say I don't know much more about it than that. I was literally just sent the PDF this morning. I was like, hell yeah, this seems like a great thing to look at. So we're going to have a dig through on these lists. Do you want to start off yourself with your first one, which was you had a chap by the name of Brett Gutterson, is the only Vampire Counts player. And in fact, let's just set the stage here a little bit. There are 40-odd players, something along those lines, 38, 40, and there's one list with Screams. They have 3 Screams, no Terrorgeists, and there's a grand total of 7 Dragons. So we've got some really interesting lists in here. A lot of Bretonnians, I did notice.
Yes, I think Bretonnians are very rapidly climbing to the top of the pile, aren't they?
Yes, they really are.
No, for sure. And I thought it would be remiss of me as the channel's Vampire Count player to not talk about the only Vampire Count list at the event. It's a very, very, very different list to the one that I'm running. So always interesting to see people taking an army where I've got a particular direction I'm going in, go somewhere completely different and look at something else. So this is great to see. Brett has started this list with the classic Master Necromancer on the Mortis engine. Got the double resurrection ability here, which is nice, and has actually given an upgrade which I hadn't considered on the Mortis engine, but now I'm looking at it, the more I like it, which is the Crown of the Damned. That's the upgrade that gives the 4+ ward save. Almost said invulnerable save there, actually. 40k, get out of my head. 4+ ward save, but it does grant stupidity. Now, initially, obviously, so these Master Necromancers, because they're only in the Vampires list, they're only leadership 8. So you do worry about failing that stupidity test. But actually, when it's a Mortis engine, you just have to move forwards. I'm not entirely sure that's the end of the world, especially if you get your reserve move one off, because it doesn't stop you casting spells or anything. So effectively, the Mortis engine just rolls forwards, and then you can use your reserve move to roll a bit backwards or change direction or whatever. So
yeah, I guess you're in range of the BSB as well, so you're getting a reroll on.
You're getting a reroll, yes, you are. Yeah, definitely. So I really like that. That's quite cool. I think
Hold on, we've just had a comment. Fun fact: the Vamp BSB doesn't let you reroll the stupidity test. Is that true? I thought it was all leadership tests.
Yeah, interesting. Don't know.
I wonder if Brett's aware of that, because I was not. That seems like that might be a sad lesson to learn on the day.
I'm starting to question the whole vampire battle standard bearer now, because I've always used it to re-roll things like the resurrection test as well at the start of the round when you're bringing stuff back. So I've always assumed that leadership test could be re-rolled, but if it can't be done with stupidity as well, then perhaps that whole thing's gone out the window. But
stupidity is not a leadership test. Okay, fair enough.
Oh, right, okay.
It's just a test that uses your leadership. Some fantastically clear Games Workshop rules writing there.
Classic wording.
I can't imagine how we got confused. While we're in a slight break there, we've got Richie in the chat. Good to see you, Richie, saying only 6 dragons was double that at the TSN, referring to last weekend or the weekend before. I think it was last weekend. There were a lot of dragons at that event. That was the one out of the 2 back-to-back weekends that I didn't go to. I had a much nicer time playing into Double Beastmen. That was good stuff. Then we've got some comments as well. Liam saying that he's got that box, the Drakes, which great purchase for the price of them. Getting 2 dragons by Games Workshop standards, it's definitely a good price. Also, that is spicy, because I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can't take a caster on a forest dragon. Weirdly, Wood Elves, I think you can only take the Lords as opposed to the level 4s. So you'd be stuck with no caster, which is an interesting spot to be in. But
who needs magic?
One of the options. And Anubis says, "Good evening from Germany." Good evening to you, Anubis. Hope you're doing well. Well, back to talking about one of the armies that are there. I guess it's vampires. Whatever.
Just your mush. Leave us alone. He's also gone for the Ghoul King and given him the Ogre Blade, classic choice, and Dark Acolyte, which is the one that allows the Ghoul King to also do resurrecting.
Oh, is that what I thought it was the one that gave you fly, Dark Acolyte? But you'll know better than me. I've just looked at it and assumed that's what it is.
No, it's the one. It's the one that allows you to effectively count as a necromancer for resurrecting at level 1.
Interesting. So
Standard,
it's going
I
to sit in
believe.
with the crypt ghouls and just add a bit
I
of
think so.
punch to the
Keep them alive.
skirmishing
Yeah,
unit.
I
That's
think
cool.
this is literally just a caddy for the ogre blade. I think so. Off we go. We've then got the last 2 screams, 2 tomb banshees. You can't go wrong with chucking tomb banshees in. They're always a good addition to any list. Then we've got the White Lord of the BSB. He's given it the Banner of the Barrows, which is the one for always hitting on 3s. So I'm going to assume this guy's going to jump in with the Graveguard and just really boost their combat output. It feels like, in my head anyway, regardless of the type of vampire count list you're running, you're probably going to see a Battle Standard Bearer. I just think there's so many different benefits you get from the BSB that you can see that everywhere. So White Lords just can pop up all the place. And then this is where I think I really like the list. This into the core, we've got 21 Crypt Ghouls, 22 Graveguard, 20 Zombies, and 20 Zombies. So you've got 2 relatively hard-hitting infantry units here with the Ghouls and the Graveguard. He's given the Graveguard the 5+ regen banner, and obviously there's 22 of them plus all the characters to go in there, so that's quite a big lump. And that's going to take some shifting. And obviously 40 zombies as well. Now, there are only units of 20, which feels low in my mind, but I guess the plan for Brett here is just to start increasing the unit sizes with that Mortis engine and the Ghoul King from turn 1 and just rapidly making that.
I like starting a little higher. I think 32 is the number that I typically see people go for. But if you're trying to cut points, fair enough. This seems like a good place to cut them, honestly.
And then we transition across to special, where we've got the corpse cart. Now, this is not something I've even thought about experimenting with just yet.
I played against one of these on Thursday, and it was truly one of the units that was there in my opponent's list. It was.
It does. So obviously, it reduces the amount of casualties you take from unstable, which is nice. And it does clarify that is cumulative with Indomitable, so you can stack this with other things. So that's
and then
nice.
the BSB as well, so you've got a nice aura.
Yes, you can't stack the BSB with Indomitable, but then it also has a 50-50. Yeah, BSBs. If you've got Indomitable, you need to roll a 2+ effectively to make it. It should stack. I don't see why it doesn't, but it just doesn't.
God, vampire count's so underpowered.
I know, what a shame. Maybe they'll give us a little buff in the next set of
maybe
changes.
cheaper Terrorgeists.
I'll keep dreaming. And it also gives a 50-50 chance of increasing resurrections by 1 as well. I feel like they could have just given that as a thing that just happens, giving you pay extra points for it. But yeah, there we are. On a 4+, you resurrect an extra model when you do some resurrecting. So it was really good in 7th.
Yeah, no, I can't remember what it did then. Sometimes the good things just scar us mentally, and then we can.
I don't know why it hurt, but it hurt.
So basically, what it does here is obviously, as you say, it reduces the amount of combat, the models that you lose to instability. Yeah. But it also, on a 4+, heals an additional wound when you do
resurrecting. Yeah,
you're resurrecting. Here's the thing. You can just fail those rolls. So when I played against Rebecca on Thursday, just gone, on her first turn, I think she rolled and failed all 3 that she did, or maybe she got one of the rolls off, but then failed to get any value out of the corpse cart on turn 1.
Yeah, and
then because of that, I was like, I'm going to do Skaven bullshit and kill entire squads. So yeah, I wasn't sold on it, and also it being a level 1 caster is.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even reference that in my thought process because I figured it wasn't going to do anything. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it's quite cool. And the upgrade that gives it the increasing of resurrection is called Warped Tintabulation, which is I just quite like that.
Good name.
The list is then finished off, last but not least, with 3 Vargeists, 10 attacks, initiative 4, strength 5, AP -2. Pretty fast, pretty deadly, but have decided not to wear any armor, so will die to a stiff breeze in return. So,
if you want to find out how we rank those against all other monstrous infantry, did a monstrous infantry tier list last week. You can check that one out. Spoiler: I really like them. They slap hard. They're are they AP2 on their attacks?
AP2, and they've got Armor Bane 2 as well, so they can go up to AP4 on the right holes.
Reasonable, yeah. With the frenzy, they've got a lot of attacks. I don't want to see in any monstrous infantry, really, that's solo, I don't want to see a champion, because you're just going to accidentally charge into a dragon because that frenzy, and then you're going to be challenged out, and then the combat that was already bad for you's just gone worse.
Yeah.
It's save the 7 points there and put it
Yeah, I
somewhere
mean, you're
else.
spending the 7 points, all it gives you an extra attack, basically. So, unit goes down to 9 attacks. So, yeah, no, very valid point. But I think overall, this feels like a proper old school Linehammer list. It's just all basically infantry.
Yeah.
It's just going to gum you up with an endless tide of undead bodies, which you're just not getting through, I don't think. I do have slight concerns about the damage output. The screams are obviously okay, but beyond that, and the guy with the ogre blade, it doesn't really hit that hard. Obviously, the Vargeist do if you get them in. So I wonder if a monster or some cavalry would have helped this list slightly. But I think this is what undead armies look like in the lore. So you get some extra points in my book, Brett, for taking a list like this, I think.
Very cool. All right, sweet. Yeah, I like the list. I'm going to move on to one, and I've learned from last time I talked about lists at an event where Val Heffelfinger was. He called me out. He got very sad that I didn't reference his list, and as a man who recently told me that he was my hero, I've got to talk about his list. So we have got Val taking Black Orc Warboss and co. Back to the Orcs. I think this is a much more fun way to play. Obviously, he was playing a bit of the Empire list that Jack Morpheus, Grail Knight supporter of this channel, has been playing and popularized. Who's stopped playing it because he's completed it. He's won an event with it. He's like, screw it. I'm going to do something more challenging and something that people are doing less, which is play Skaven. So we've got here the 7 drops, which is pretty low.
Yep.
Black Orc Warboss. Shield, Great Weapon, Wyvern, Trollhide Trousers, Talisman of Protection. The standard loadout, can't go wrong with it. A level 4 regular Goblin Odd Knob with Elementalism and Lore Familiar. I like that. Interesting it's on foot, but that's fine. I guess you don't tend to want to be too aggressively pushed forwards with your casters in Orcs and Goblins. Got a level 4 Weird Knob, Idol of Mork, Ruby Ring of Ruin, and Battle Magic. So this is really trying to pump up those fireballs. Got a couple of
everywhere.
Yeah, you got to roll for your spells, but Battle Magic's so good that you can comfortably roll for your spells and not worry too much about what you get. Then we've got a big boss with a BSB Warbanner Charmed Shield on a Warboar. I like that. I think it's probably just going in an infantry squad. Yeah, it is going in with the Black Orcs, and the boar's just giving it an extra wound, and also the Armored Hide one, so boosting that save up as well, which is quite nice. I guess points are a problem because I'd like to see Trollhide Trousers on there, but he's probably at his cap of points anyway, looking how many he's got, because he's also got 2 Night Goblin Big Bosses, 1 on a giant Cave Squig with Great Weapon and Charmed Shield, and then 1 just on foot with a Great Weapon as well. So fairly standard assortment of characters. Double level 4 caster is really strong for Orcs and Goblins. You love to see that. Core, we've got the requisite Black Orc mobs, and they are using the mob rule to great effect, which you love to see, but also just makes it really hard to count up how many are in the squad.
Work out what's going on in there.
Yeah, I think that is. It doesn't look like that many. It looks like there's only 13 models, but that's definitely not right. So I think there's 16 with the big red raggedy flag there, boosting them up to weapon skill 5, which is really nice, giving them an extra pip of combat res. Obviously, you double stack that with the Orc Big Boss BSB. So assuming they've got 2 ranks, that gives them Close Order, 2 ranks, BSB Standard, War Banner, Big Red Raggedy Flag. Oh, hey, you can challenge out a dragon and then beat them just in combat. Yeah, just musician your way to victory. Really nice there. I know he was speaking favourably about that when they were doing the Square Base Online tournament finals. He was a big fan of that brick that Kairos was bringing. And then we've got, surprise, surprise, 2 bricks of Night Goblins. Units of 30 with 3 Fanatics, Boss, Musician, no Standard.
Don't like it.
Yeah, but they're like, I don't think Fanatics are anywhere near the. I know you had some experiences with them at the start of the edition where I played them into you.
Throw me on the dole.
Yeah, but you're paying about 180 points now for 3 Fanatics. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more investment, and he's only going for 2 squads of 30. So he's only got the 6 Fanatics. I think they're now in a much better place than they were. People still don't like playing into them. They feel inherently bad because you can't target them, and you have to play outside the normal rules of the game to deal with them. But I think it's fine. I don't think they're an actual problem. They're just a bit
Yeah, I just need to work out how I get around them really, because they're just so good at killing my big stuff, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I think you just need to get good. That's
Well,
the
that's probably one part of it for sure. I'll
yeah.
take that.
Which
Take that on board.
big stuff are you finding them?
Well,
Um,
I mean, you've obviously played against me, and I've played another game where they tend to put them out on the flanks, which is
yeah.
where I've put my dragon and my terrorgeists and the
Mm,
blood knights, and then you ended up in a position where you're kind of stuck facing these goblins across the way from you on the flanks, and it's like, well, I kind of want to try and get past them, and you can do it with the fly, obviously,
yeah.
but then they can release them anyway, and it's rare that you'll necessarily have the distance to get past them to a point where it doesn't matter. So I wonder if I just need to think about whether in that situation, maybe I just put everything on one flank and just say, okay, well, there's 30 on one side that are just not going to damage anything significant. And you're not, with 3 fanatics, you're not going to kill all 3 of the big things. So at least 2 of them are going to make their way through. And then just try and roll up from one flank across. But
Yeah.
it's only based on 2 games. So
If you, the viewer, are struggling with fanatics, here's something you can do: put more drops in your list. You can try and charge out the units. Obviously, they can still release them if they're in combat. But if your opponent's looking at being threatened, if they might lose the combat, start running away, and just potentially get chased down and lose the fanatics, they might panic and put them out. But also, if you can work out where they're going to be before you put your valuable stuff down, that makes it a lot easier for you to play the game, because they are just a 4-inch move unit that potentially can be moved 12 inches with a elementalism caster. But don't worry about that bit. Not everyone's running one of those. Yeah, it'll be fine. They are, especially now their units are 30. They're quite big and lumbering, so they're reasonably easy to avoid if you're okay with just picking off the outsides. But just play an army that gets high magic and use the spell that makes a big aura of difficult terrain, so they just instantly die. That's probably the best bits. Perfect. So where do we get up to? Yes, there's a unit of skirmishing orc boys with warbows. I was super underwhelmed by the unit of these that I took. Not to say that you're wrong to take them, but maybe I just used them badly. I'm wondering if they're going to be...
Saying Val doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, I'm not saying that at all. Don't you try and start shit. I'll put you back in your box, mate. No, I think I probably used them wrong, and I think in this list he's probably using it as a bunker for the weird knob. Doesn't get the +1 to... Oh, no, would get the +1 to cast, because I think it's not to do with rank bonus, it's just if you got 10 or more models. So casting at +1 there is really nice. Then in the special, there's a unit of 5 Squig Hopper mobs. I know Val's a big fan of these. If you get them into combat, they're great, but they're made out of tissue paper. So I think the fact that I don't like them might be genuinely a bit of a skill issue. I've used them once and gone, they just got shot, but I didn't do anything to screen them or, play around with them. So it'd be, it's a shame these games aren't online and being streamed, because it'd be interesting to see how those have gone. And then into rare, Doomdiver Catapult. I'd love to see it. Great stuff. Big fan of those. I am actually such a big fan of the Doomdivers. I would have quite liked to see 2 Stone Throwers as well. But then you start eating into points for other things, so it's difficult to make those cuts. Yeah, no, like it. That's a pretty classic Orcs and Goblin list with a couple of little spicy upgrades there, like the Squig Hoppers and the skirmishing unit of Orc Knobs as a bunker for the level 4. Let's move on to your second one.
So we're going on to Danny Stewart with the Tomb Kings. A list, again, I really like this one. I looked at all the Tomb Kings lists, and there's a couple of Double Dragon Tomb Kings lists, which are probably better than this one, but I do quite like this as a concept. So we're just going for the Grand Army here. So neither of the special detachments, but starting off with the High Priest, level 4 caster, giving it the Hieratic Jar and the Arcane Familiar. The Arcane Familiar gives it 2 spell laws, but on the list we've just got Elementalism. We haven't listed what the second spell law is. So, it always gives me some satisfaction that Tomb Kings have to pay like 25 points for the Hieratic Jar to resurrect once per game, whereas the Vampire Count's going to do it every single turn. So to Danny there. Moving on, we have 2...
You don't even know the guy.
I don't
You're
know
just
the guy,
shit-talking
but...
Canadian. Famous for how nice they are as a race. Like, what's wrong with you?
All I know is he would utterly annihilate me. So I'll just while I'm across the Atlantic and he can't get anywhere near me, then I'll shit talk him on the internet. Two Necrotechs coming up. So the Necrotechs. So this is interesting. I'm going to get your opinion on this, Ed. The Necrotech gives the unit that it's in the extra attacks 1 rule and hatred as well.
Yeah.
If you put 2 Necrotechs, because basically I can't see where the second Necrotech is going other than the big unit of Tomb Guard. You put 2 of them together and you have 2 instances of extra attacks 1 and extra attacks 1. Is that 2 extra attacks or do they not stack?
I'd have to look. So, unfortunately, when you ask me rules questions for Old World, it's so much more complex than 40k that I actually have to go, let me look at the rules. But I would assume so. Anything, I think the way it's been ruled is anything that has a number inherently. Extra attacks 1 would become extra attacks 2 when you've got that on there. Right. But I think it's probably more a case of just being a bit more consistent. I think that is an interesting commitment of points.
Yes. He's given one of them the Amulet of the Serpent, which gives out poison attacks.
Yeah.
So effectively that Tomb Guard unit are getting 2 extra attacks per guy, and they've all got poison as well now. So it gets over one of the problems I found with Grave Guard and Tomb Guard are quite similar, is that they just don't do enough damage because they don't have enough attacks, and those attacks don't necessarily then always wound. So combining the extra attacks with the hatred and the poison attacks, I think that is going to turn that unit into actually a proper damage dealer rather than just a unit that stands there and doesn't die.
Here's my spicy guess, and I don't know if you can do this because I haven't actually looked at characters with whips. Can you put characters in the second rank? I think you might be able to decide to put them in the second rank. Someone let me know. But they have whips. So is he just running this unit as like 14 wide, but 2 ranks, and then he's got the 2 characters with the whips in the back and all of the other characters in the front, and he's just gone, this is my Death Star. It's got poisoned attacks and other bits and pieces, extra attacks too. I think there's like multiple reasons that wouldn't work, but it's a very funny image in my head. So I'm just gonna.
It's like the Necrotechs like whipping them forwards, just like go 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 go.
Well, I think that's how it should be set up, yeah. And also, Tomb Guard, exactly the unit that you'd expect to see. The slave drivers whipping into place makes great logical sense there for me. But that's something. Anubis says no, you can't. Thank you. I'm sure there's like 4 reasons you can't. It's one of those where you say it out loud, you're like, I don't think so. But or says they have to go in the front, but if there's no room, they get put in the back. Cool. So
so maybe you can hide them away a little bit with a bit of cleverness on how wide your flank.
Yeah, but they'd go to the back. They wouldn't go to the second rank, and the whips wouldn't let them. And I think you also can't use any of your rules in the back rank as well.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's okay.
They're probably just in the front rank and they come with whips anyway, so there's not any secret spicy sauce there.
No. He's also got the BSB carrier with the Royal Herald, who's gives out the 5-up ward save. So I'm assuming this character is also going in the Tomb Guard unit. It would make sense for the BSB to be there. That's where you're going to want your 5-up ward save. So that's going to be effectively 3 characters in that unit. But there is a big unit of skeleton archers coming up, so I wonder if there's something going around with making that into some kind of combat unit. He's also
that's a fair point, actually. Yeah, I think it's probably one in the skeleton archers.
Potentially.
Because then you've just got a pseudo combat armored unit as well as, because this is a unit that I could see ranked up as like a 15 wide, or it's 29, so you could go 11, 11, 7.
Yeah.
That would give you the most shots with volley fire, I think. That's interesting. I think.
It's definitely interesting because if it's going to act as Liam, he's just said exactly what I was about to say, in that you put the poison one with the skeleton archers, and just give the flat extra attacks to the Tomb Guard on the hope that their killing blow, etc., or cleaving blow will kick in enough that you don't miss the poison.
Well, he's right. Just 2 attacks each in combat, re-rolling all your hits, fishing for those 6s if you get charged. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
No, it's definitely interesting because my initial thought looking at 29 archers in one unit is that you have to string it out pretty wide to be able to make use of the volley fire a bit better. You can be wasting a lot of shots with points.
Yeah, depends what your terrain pack's like. Obviously, second rank can fire in hills, volley fire. You don't actually lose that many shots if you deploy like in an odd number wide. You can do some interesting things with archers, and they're so cheap. I think it's a really interesting way to stack some arrow, some poison shots. Warbows 24 inches. That's
Yeah.
pretty aggressively okay.
Fair enough. To round off the characters before we carry on, he's taken a cheapest chips Tomb Prince with the chariot. So it's got Talisman of Protection for the 5-up ward, but taking a great weapon as well. But yeah, I like this. It looks fun. I'm not entirely sure skeleton chariots are the strongest things in the Tomb card in the Tomb King's book. But
well, there's a unit of 2 chariots for it to go with, so
yeah,
it's
exactly.
ablative wounds effectively. Yeah, I think they're aggressively fine because they're so cheap. Basically, you're looking at less than 50 points per model when you've factored in the unit upgrades. I think it's interesting, and it's a lot cheaper than a Bone Dragon. A lot less effective, but there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. Wouter D makes a point about the poison meant against large targets. I wonder, does the Amulet of the Serpent give the poison attacks to the bows as well?
Oh yeah, it just gives the whole unit poison attacks. So
right,
you get you get it on the range.
With poison as well. You won't get the hatred rerolls, but you will be shooting with.
Yeah, so people have been talking about doing this, especially with the FAQ clarifying that you can shoot through your own models at large targets.
Yeah.
People, I think, when they brew this idea up, forget that poison is all well and good, but the things you're shooting at have a 2 or 3 up save, and then probably 1 or 2 more saves as well, like a ward and a regen. So I actually don't think that the mass poison is an effective way to deal with large targets.
Yeah.
As someone who is flying around with lots of poison, you are disappointed a lot more than you'd want to be. That's for sure.
Yeah, if you're just not going to make it through the layered saves, are you? Because you've got no AP to go with it. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Everyone in the chat is now just saying all the things that I was going to say about this list now. So I don't really know why I'm here anymore, Ed, to be honest. More Robot Wars content says, feels like this army would be better as Mortuary Cult. I would be inclined to agree. Obviously, you wouldn't get access to the Royal Herald. So you'd have to swap that for a Mortuary Priest to get the BSB.
Which is probably better.
I think.
Yeah.
But crucially, you don't get access to the Tomb Guard in core.
Yeah, that's true.
You, I think it does change the list if you put it as Mortuary Cult. So
I just want to point out, he says Boa Shabti would be very much at home in a list like this, and I want to point this out because in the tier list, the objectively correct tier list of monstrous infantry. Remember that name. I have the correct opinions because that's not an oxymoron at all. I had 2 people commenting, and this is why I find it so funny when people leave comments. Please do continue to, tell me your thoughts on what units are good or bad. It's always interesting to see discussion. But I had one person tell me that Shabti were S tier, and one that told me they were like at the bottom of D. And it's so funny that on the same video they were both like, "Oh yeah, no, these are all the reasons that you're wrong about Shabti. They're way better / worse than you've ranked them." So I think I put them comfortably in the middle, which seems like the safe
That's
option.
a pretty good shout. Ors thinks that he might be joining the Chariot guy into the Tomb Guard. I think if that was the case, I don't understand what the 2 skeleton chariots are doing.
Wait, can you do that?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you've got scythed wheels or some rule on a chariot that you can't put them into the Tomb Guard. If you can, that's wild. I had no idea that was a thing. I'd have to reread some rules there. But
cool. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see how it plays out. If you're listening, Danny, let us know. You don't feel too distressed by how we're tearing your list apart. I apologise.
I'm not. I'm not tearing it apart.
I think it's
You're just shit talking the guy. You're looking for a fight. Fucking square go like. You'll be hopping on a plane over to Canada. Completely
beg for forgiveness.
Or says light chariots can join any unit. That's so wild and something that I need to start doing for no good reason. All right, perfect. Let's go back to the list. There was some core that we've vaguely talked about already.
Lots of core. So we got the Tomb Guard, Icon of the Sacred Eye to give the extra weapon skill. Got the Halberds for the extra strength and AP over hand weapons. There's 23 of them. All the buffs from above. They're going to be pretty disgusting unit to end up in combat with. He's also taken 3 units of skeleton skirmishers, all with the warbows. I think these units just exist to wind me up, as far as I can tell. Just getting in the way and being annoying and not dying quickly enough, especially if you're running an army that has no shooting. So, yeah, good for those. Necropolis Knights in special, 4 of them, with a captain and a standard bearer. Big chunk here. I think they're obviously much better than Skeleton Horsemen, but they are quite expensive. But I think they're worth it for their points. And then to round out special, triple Tomb Scorpion. Here we go, boys. This is what we like. That sweet appearing out of nowhere action. That's what we like.
Yeah, obviously doesn't do the terror below rolls,
yeah,
because it's not mortuary cult. Would
exactly.
only cost you 2 points if you went for it, but
yeah, and I think this is where whoever it was, More Robot Wars, said that it would be better as mortuary cult list. I think the minute you putting 3 Tomb Scorpions in, you are making a choice not to go mortuary cult at that point. Although they are just objectively a good unit.
they're just good. I think while it's maybe not the most like obviously competitive list, I'm not going to out and out say that it's not a competitive list, because I haven't understood how it plays enough to make that distinction.
Yeah.
I think there are choices here that may really push it towards just being Grand Army, which is the Tomb Guardian core, and also the combination of little bits and pieces of everything in there. So I think this is one of those that I'd love to be able to go.
I'd love to watch it being played, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And he's got the Necrosphinx in there to finish it off.
So, complete sidebar. Last weekend, I did go down to the TSN Arena just to watch some games. Wasn't playing. Yeah. Well, so 2 of the lads from Dwellers Below were there, and I thought they'd come all the way from Australia. So I was like, well, I'm never going to get to see them again. So I've got to take this opportunity. So went down, spent about 5 hours there, had some lunch with them. Really good, good time. But it was great just walking around, getting the sort of updates on all of the games. Definitely, maybe something that I'd like to look at doing at an event at some point, and just do like entire event coverage, but that's for down the line, I think. Yeah, and then a Necrosphinx as well. I think you mentioned that one, but it's just a good unit. Cool. Well, let's move on to my next one, which is 1 page up, and this is Demons of Chaos. And I picked this one because it's very similar to the list that I've been writing for Demons of Chaos. So once a month, every month, the Grail Knight tier supporters get to suggest and vote on an army that I have to play in a battle report. This month was Empire. That went up a couple of days ago. But the one thing that's been suggested so far is the Demons list. So they haven't given me any, there's so far been one suggestion, so it might not be Demons for next month. But I am thinking that I have to write some Demons lists, so I've been playing around. And this is the classic Tzeentch Demon Prince, level 4, paired up with a Bloodthirster, because there's nothing stopping you from doing that. You make the Tzeentch caster your general, because they have the same leadership. The way demons work is, whichever god you have as your general, you then, all the stuff gets moved from special to core, from rare to special, and you have a bit more flexibility with how you can build your list. So, just to quickly run through, even the Furies, like, I've been putting 3 units of 7 Khorne Furies in, because I'm looking at them just like, those are just good. They're just good. They've got 1 attack each, right? Strength 5, I believe. Or is it? I think it's Strength 4 base. Khorne gives them +1 strength on the charge, so Strength 5. I think they've got Furious Charge as well. Something like Move 8 Swift Stride. And they're just so cheap. And they're skirmishers. So you're just like, this is just going to kill war machines for free. I want to do stuff with that. That's a really annoying unit to have to play around with. So to actually talk about the list, Bloodthirster, with the Blood Flail, Armor of Khorne, Demonic Robes as well. I think that's the cheap upgrade that stops you from being wounded on 2s, which is fine as just I don't want to get hit by cannons. Yeah. I quite like going for the Collar of Khorne to go from Magic Resist 2 to Magic Resist 3. Miasmic Mirage is just super sad for this model, but I think, how you want to spend your upgrades outside of the Blood Flail and the Armor of Khorne, you do you. You do whatever you fancy. Demon Prince, level 4, has Battle Magic, which I really like. It's just the best standalone lore. You get a lot of mileage out of it. Aether Blade, so you ignore their saves with your hand weapons, which is 5 attacks at strength 6, so you basically just got a souped up great weapon that strikes an initiative. And also Twin Heads, so +1 spell, so you know 5 of the 6 spells in Battle Magic, so you're probably getting all of the ones you want.
Yep.
Great stuff there. Core, triple units of 7 Furies, Demons of Khorne, love that. 98 points. What a bargain. Sure, they're made out of tissue paper, but like, oh god, they're so good. I've been looking at them as well for harpies for Dark Elves. Not quite as good, but still pretty solid. Then we've got a unit of 21 pink horrors. They are there. They can do a bound spell. You're going to pick the hex realistically because the other, the actual shooting attack is terrible. Special unit of 3
What level do
flamers.
they cast their bound spell at?
Rank bonus. So currently it'd only be +2. There is an upgrade that you can double, though you count your rank bonuses additional or something along those lines.
Right.
So it hasn't gone for it in this list. It is, a bit more expensive to do that. Flamers is each unit of 3. One of them's upgraded to an Exalted Flamer, which is a level 3 caster with Demonology. Just a great little caster. You can't go battle magic on this unit, unfortunately, otherwise you would. And then a Soul Grinder with the Harvester Cannon that it comes with and no other upgrades. I fucking love this thing. Soul Grinders are so wild. It has reserve move, and it's got lumbering. So you move this thing, like, I think it's 8 inches, then you get a free lumbering pivot, then you shoot with it, or maybe you're out of range, so you don't. Then you move it again, because reserve move. You get a lumbering pivot. Have you ever been outmaneuvered by something on like 100 by 150 base? It is heartbreaking. It is so good. I think it's the best thing in the book. That would be my take. Maybe the Bloodthirst is better, but they're comparable. They're pretty much up there.
Yeah, I remember at the Fantasy Slam we had a demon player. He was playing all Khorne, so there was no Tzeentch going around. But yeah, I could just always see the Soul Grinder just munching its way across an opponent's deployment zone. I was like, how did it get over there?
Yeah.
Like, yes, it moves twice a turn, and it can pivot as much as it wants.
And you can battle magic it as well with the Tzeentch caster. You can Arcane Urgency to give it a third move effectively. So it's really hard to pin down. I like it. It's just such a shame it's 255 points because I'd love to take 2 of them, but that'd be cheating.
And that's probably why they added that extra 5 points on there, haven't they? Saying you can't take 2, but you will take
Steam
1.
Tank. They're like, we don't want you running 2 of these at 2,000 points. Cool, that's about it. You've got a dwarf list, and I'm going to have to pop away for 5 minutes, so I'm going to leave you to talk about this and to analyse it fully. No worries, mate. You've got this.
No pressure. Oh, he's actually gone. Right, you're all my victims now, so best of luck. This is Cleary Mooney's list. I'm enjoying the Canadian names, and they have called this list Goat Trek, which fans of Gottrex and Felix, I'm assuming that's what this is referring to. Now, this is a royal clan list. So this, yes, Dwarves, Lord of Azir, yes. A little bit of a sneak preview. Our next judging of the journal is going to be a royal clans Arcane Journal review, so checking out for that in a few days' time, hopefully. This is just, I think this is like just making a biggest Death Star that they can possibly make and just lumbering it forward. So we start with the king, classic beefcake king here, being carried around by his shield bearers. He's taken the great weapon with the Master Rune of Smiting, the Master Rune of Gromril, and the Rune of Preservation. So this gives the great weapon the multiple wounds D6 special rule, and his armor rune gives him the 2+ save, and he's also immune to killing blow and multiple wounds. So getting this guy in a challenge with a dragon or anything particularly nasty, he's just going to laugh in their face. And he just hits like an absolute truck. Also got a Thane here with the Battle Standard Bearer. So he's taken the a combination of runes on the standard, the Master Rune of Grungi, which gives his unit the 5+ ward save, and it also dishes out the bubble of 6+ ward save versus shooting. So any other kind of units around are going to get a bit of a benefit from this. And crucially, he's taken the Stroller's Rune, which is the rune that gives out Vanguard to his unit. So his unit are getting that pre-game move in there, which is really, really nice. Also taking the Rune of Preservation here for the immunity for killing blow multiple wounds. So hopefully that Battle Standard Bearer is not going to be picked off in an awkward way with something that can get into him. So Lords of Azir jumping in again looks like a nice solid list. I like it. Yep, I completely agree. I think this is a definitely a very valid way of running the royal clans. And yeah, he's going for a yeet for sure. He's literally, I think he's going to punch this list forwards and see if anything can deal with the big block of warriors, which I'll talk about in a minute. So also got a runesmith here. This is where I think potentially we might see some slight improvements on the list. He has taken one rune of spell breaking, so just the one across the list, which is the rune of the automatic dispel. I think if I'm running Royal Clans, I feel like I'd be buying a few more of these if I could fit them in. But ultimately, they have also got an Anvil of Doom for the better dispelling in general, so maybe they'll be okay. And Scott Lucas jumping in the chat here, FYI for those doing leadership tests of vampire counts, at various times, a model or unit might be called upon to make a leadership test or to otherwise test against leadership in some way. Page 97. I'm assuming the inference... Oh, welcome back, Ed. Hello. I'm assuming the inference there is that we can use the BSB for stupidity. I think that's the inference, because it's testing against leadership in some way. I'm just going to wait for the follow-up comment from Scott there. But yes.
Yeah, we've got a disagreement in chat. I want to see you two fighting to the reasonable conclusion. It's like fighting to the death, but it's way more civil. It's yeah, no, that looks to me like you would be able to use it for stupidity, which is how I understand it. But I'm sure Urs will clarify if there is a reason that we can't in there. Goddamn old world. There's so many overlapping rules. Lord of Azir, as I mentioned before, is Richie. This is very much a Richie style list. I'm not saying that he wrote it, but this is, you know,
he may have had a hand.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that Richie really likes in here. So the full plate Thane with the Rune of Preservation is fairly standard.
Yeah.
And the combinations in there, so lots of well, you know, lots of people can come to the same conclusions, but good stuff in there. All right, sure. Urs is back in. He says, "I'm pretty sure it's the same reason you can't use it on break tests. It tests involving your leadership, but it's not a leadership test." All right. I'm less clear than I was when I started, so we'll just let that one continue.
Let them find it out in the comments, and we'll
have a resolution.
If
we get a clear resolution, we'll let you know. To the listeners at home, we'll have more at 5.
So yeah, I've gone for all the characters, and just to catch you up, as you say, look, the classic stuff in there, and then we've gone for a big unit of 20 Royal Clan Warriors. This is a 350-point unit here. This is been given Drilled, it's been given Stubborn, it's given him Veteran, every damn upgrade, son. That's right.
And also, up here, double standard, the Rune of Hesitation and Rune of Battle.
Yes.
That's
so
really
don't
nice.
count as charging when you charge this unit in the front, which is massive. And you have your +1 combat resolution as well. So this is... excellent, I think, and I think this clearly this is the unit where all the characters go. You chuck in the ward save, chuck in the Vanguard, got the buffs coming in from the Anvil and the cart around it, all its own runes. This unit is just not going to die, and you're just not going to want to charge it because you've got all those horrific characters in there that will just mince you if you do try and charge it. And if you do charge it, you don't even count as charging. So
it will have to be quite a wide frontage though, because you can't have more characters then you can have other things. So if you're going King, Thane, Runesmith, 3 characters.
Yeah.
You need to have 3 non-characters as well. But the King and the Thane are both on shield bearers. So it needs to be 8 wide, which is not the end of the world, but it's just quite a chunky unit.
Yes. No, I hadn't even thought about that. No, that is for sure, because then you're only going to get 8. And then you probably still would have enough for 2 for the double rank bonus, wouldn't you? Just about. Yeah, I think you would. I can't do maths on the fly, but I think the minute you start losing Dwarf Warriors, which to be fair is going to be a challenge because this unit will not die, but if you do start losing models, you're going to start losing combat res quite quickly, which I guess with the Rune of Battle on the Warrior standard really starts to come into its own. But 9 Lords of Azir thinks it's 9 wide, so to manage to fit this in, so maybe you don't put the Runesmith in the unit. I mean, he's not adding... You've got the Dispel, but he's not adding anything to the unit itself.
I think you do, just on the basis that I think it has to go in, because you go marching column, you yeet this unit up the board, and you get into range, and you need to not get Miasmic Miraged or Column of Crystal, whichever. So I think it probably does have to go in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. But... Yeah. I mean, you've got so many models, and the shield bearers take up 4 spots, so you actually end up filling out the ranks a little more. Yeah. Richard says 9 is the magic number for the yeet. I will take his word for it. He's been doing it a lot. What else have we got in the core section?
So we've got Unit 12 Quarrelers, and just with the crossbows. And we've got the dwarf cart, Bugman's cart. Here we go. The dwarves are going to be drinking tonight, and somehow that's going to make them run faster. So there we go. I love that this is core because it's like you have to take this.
I can drive carts better when I'm drunk, bro. Don't worry about it. Just to state, Close Orders does not condone drunk driving. Don't do it. Just get an Uber.
Please get an Uber.
There's your PSA. Even if it's only a cart.
Moving quickly on, special 2 grudge throwers. I like
moving on at +1 inch movement.
Sorry, continue. I like the 2 grudge throwers in here, but what you'll notice, and we've also got 5 Iron Drakes in rare, which clearly, obviously, they're just amazing. And I feel like, just as a general point, this is more the level I was expecting kind of all dwarf artillery to be, which is a bit of a shame. But you've got the 2 grudge throwers, then you've got the massive unit of Royal Clan warriors. What's protecting the grudge throwers? Because you've got that block in the middle, which, okay, it's going to be 9 wide, but what's to stop your opponent just kind of running round behind you?
That is the classic problem that dwarves have. You want to put the way this list plays is put so much threat forwards that if they're dealing with the back lines, they're not dealing with the front lines, which is kind of how you play against dwarves. But because this unit can turn 1B an inch away from you, it's much harder to not deal with that.
Yeah,
it's there is like Richie says, there is a Doomseeker which you can put there as a defensive unit. Tooled up 190 points, and if it dies,
I love this Doomseeker. This is I don't know if this is the standard way of running them, but if I'm ever going to play dwarfs, this is how I'm running my Doomseekers. 190 points, but his Whirling Blades of Death have taken the Master Rune of Swiftness, so they always strike first, and 2 runes of Cleaving, so they've got additional -2 AP. He's then taken 3 tattoos, so he's tattooed up to the 9s with the Rune of Endless Battle, which is the, in theory, Endless Attacks rune. Every single unsaved wound generates an additional attack when you charge, which is crazy. He's also taken the Rune of Wrath for an additional attack, and the Rune of the Hateful to gain hatred. So this thing has got 1 billion attacks, all rerolling to hit, and every single one that wounds generates extra attacks, which also all reroll to hit. I think if you let this guy charge you, you've fucked up, because there's not going to be much left of whatever is charged.
But he does get, extra charge range, extra charge roll.
Yes.
I really like this list. Is there anything else here? Oh no, that's onto the next page.
That's the end.
I think this is really fun. Obviously, like you say, there's going to be the Yeet unit, the King, the Thane, the Runesmith. As Ors points out, it does give you Armorbane 2.
I knew the Runesmith did something.
It also gives you flaming attacks, which is sometimes good and sometimes a downside. I really like the warriors with hand weapons and shields. Obviously, Richie and I talked about it in the review of the the first look that we did of the Arcane Journal. But what you get is you get Strength 3 if you win on combat res and then follow up, which you're pretty likely to do with this unit. You're getting up to that Strength 4. You've got Grommel weapons, so you're getting the AP. You've got the Armorbane because you've got the Runesmith in there. And you're also not having that many models in base contact, so you don't need to go for the souped up great weapons, because most of the output's coming from the
characters.
The characters there. I really like it. I think it's great. I like everything else in here. There's effectively 2 grudge throwers and a cannon, if we're talking about the Iron Drake with the Trollhammer torpedo. Yeah. I would have liked to see more Iron Drakes in there as well, I think. Quarrelers are fine, but I don't love them in terms of core. They're okay. I don't know what else I'd go for in this list, to be honest. I really like Longbeards. I'd have been tempted to go Longbeards over the Dwarves, the Royal Clan Warriors, to be honest. I know they're more points, but I think they're just better. It's kind of like to taste, because you're kind of just using them from ablative wounds, so I get it on that basis, but also, better weapon skill, better strength, so you get up to strength 5 if you're using the hand weapons.
You get the Gromrel weapons built in as well, don't you? So you get the rerolls and you get the better armor as well. So but as you say, it's a lot more points to do that. So perhaps you would struggle. You'd have to drop something else, wouldn't you? I don't know if the Doomseeker is essential in the list. Richie, I think Richie's suggesting that's how we protect the grudge throwers and the shooting units. But I wonder if you took that out. I don't know. Well, tricky. I'm no dwarf expert, but it just feels like a suitably beefy dwarf list, which I absolutely love. So
Yeah, no, it's solid. I like it. I think it has all of the things that I'm looking for in a dwarf list, which is it can deal with some lists, it can't deal with some lists, but the list that it can deal with, it deals with very well.
Yeah.
I don't think you can tool a dwarf list up to deal with everything. You can make lists sort of resistant into dragons or resistant into shooting, but it's hard to skew into all of the angles in one go. So I like this as sort of. Can you hear me? Yeah, there we go. I need to get a new microphone because every time I knock it slightly, it resets, and every time that resets, it resets my camera.
I was like, he's gone again. I'm just going to be soloing this episode.
So I wanted to talk about Chaos Dwarves, and there's a reason I wanted to talk about. I don't know if this list's any good. I don't know anything about this player. I don't know how well Peter's going to do. I hope Peter does well. Peter, if anyone sends this to you, I want you to win because who has a unit of 5 Bull Centaur renders. Wow. Also, no great weapons on them. Just purely leaning on the fact that they have impact hits, which I think is amazing. So the list is Sorcerer Prophet on a Lamassu. So you're going for your weird bearded faced, manticore style mount, which I really like. Gone for the Sorcerer's Exhalation, which is a breath weapon, strength 4, AP 2, I think. Other than that, Talisman of Stone, Talisman of Protection, 5 at ward, Mantle of Stone, take you, +1 toughness, get you up to toughness 6. Demonology Caster, just solid there.
Yeah.
Not too much to say about that. Demon Smith Sorcerer, 95 points. Interesting that he's got characters 500 points. Has he summed them up? Oh, he has summed them up. I thought that he was putting that down as his cap for what he was allowed. I was wondering if he'd just written a list.
Exactly.
I don't know how people are fitting in 2 dragons. God, this is. Woo. Yeah. So then we've got a Demon Smith Sorcerer. So that's just a level 1 Demonology who is there to babysit the Deathstreaker rocket launcher. It's aggressively fine. 95 points for an engineer that also is a level 1 caster. It's not like the most points efficient engineer in the game, but it's also not awful.
Yeah.
Core 20 Infernal Guard with Blunderbuss and heavy armor. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. So this is a unit that you're probably going to want to Steed of Shadows up the board turn 1 because they're a 12-inch range gun. It's 12-inch range, multiple shots D3, strength 3, AP 1. Doesn't take penalties for, I think, long range, and doesn't take penalties for multiple shots. So It's just the moving and shooting penalty. It has volley fire. I believe as well, if you ever get 20 of them shooting, you get to reroll 1s to hit, which is something. It's like some wild number. I would like to see this unit, and this is not the correct way to use it, deploy in line hammer formation.
A full 20 wide. Long. Yeah.
Steed of Shadow them forwards and go, you can stand and shoot me. You can charge me. I'm going to stand and shoot and just blow 1 unit up. And then your opponent loses like 15 goblins. You're like, ha ha! And your 320 point unit dies. Yeah, for like 80 points of theirs. But I love it. I'm a big fan of that. Then there's a second unit of Infernal Guard, which is a more conservatively equipped hand weapons, shields, champion, full command. So it's nice to see a Chaos Dwarf list with Chaos Dwarfs in, even though they're not necessarily the most competitive units in the index. They're just cool. Like, I understand wanting to play the Chaos Dwarves in the Chaos Dwarf list.
Yeah.
Then we've got a couple of interesting choices. We've got the Sneaky Gits. I really like Sneaky Gits. Right, they are, little goblins. And then there's 2 Deathstreaker rocket launchers. These are fantastic. They're in fact, I'm going to have to pull up the stats on them because they have, I believe, large blast template at strength 4 AP 1. I think that's the loadout they've got. It's been a hot minute since I looked at the Chaos Dwarves, but here we go. So they're a large blast template. No, 3-inch. So you've got 2 choices. You can either go 3-inch blast template, which is strength 3, no AP, armor bane 1, but multiple wounds D6. That's it. So they're really good at sniping out the behemoths. You're only strength 6 on the central hull, so you're only wounding on 4s, but there is some cheeky plays there.
Yeah.
Or you can go for strength 3, no AP, even on the central hull, but it is a 5-inch blast template. So you can theoretically just absolutely muller someone if they're bringing, one of those really good armies like Skaven, and they're bringing big Death Stars. You can theoretically absolutely,
Just crush the unit.
yeah. So
someone that's
huge.
got, say, 40 zombies, he'll just go goodbye.
Yeah. Anubis says that he sent me a Chaos Dwarf list on Discord. It's the list from the Warhol tournament he's in at the moment, and it's 3-0 in his pod. Oh, congratulations. I'll have to have another look at that one. I definitely gave it a look the first time round. I'm a huge fan of the Chaos Dwarfs. You can do some fun things with them. Shout out to Tom Carley, who was on 3 or 4 weeks ago, who's had an absolute tear with them at the moment. And then the Bull Centaur Rendors, they do, I think, D3 impact hits each at strength 4 AP1 or AP2.
Nice.
They're not the best unit in the book. They might be the most fun unit in the book. They're pretty cool. They're T5.
Yeah, I mean, you get 5 D3 impact hits off. That's gonna swing some combat res in your favor, isn't it?
Let me just double check. Yeah, it's D3, and they have what's it called? There's a special rule for their impact hits. You can tell when it's an army that I haven't actually played very much because it's Chaos Dwarves. AP2 on the impact hit. So it's 5D3, but AP2. Strength 4, but they're T5. They've got a decent save with the light armor and shield. And then the Armored Hide 2 as well, I think it is. So, yeah, I like them. 307 points. You could put a lot of Blood Knights in for 307 points instead. But yeah, no, they're a very fun unit. One of my favorite models. I really like them. Yeah. Big hats, big fan of that. So I think that we'd gone through all of them, but there is just one last list that I wanted to have a quick look at, because this absolute hero, BJ Lemure, is running 1,500 points of trees. What an absolute hero. So, yes. First of all, there's a forest dragon. Okay. You get forest dragons in the forest. I'm okay with that. That feels forest spirity enough. It's not technically a forest spirit, but I can allow it. That feels pretty okay to me. Loaded out, as you might expect, Ogre Blade, Talisman of Protection. Interestingly, not with the spirits, the sprites that give it, make it harder to hit in challenges. Those have gone onto the Treeman Ancient, who's got the Annoyance and Netlings. But so you've got a decently tooled up Dragon Lord. And then you've got a Treeman Ancient, level 4, Battle Magic, and Annoyance and Netlings. Core, Dryads. The one unit of Glade Guard that you have to take. Legally, you have to put them in the list to make it work, so, fair enough. Special, unit of Treekin. Rare, 2 Great Eagles. All right, not technically trees, but close enough. They live in the woods. They're not the elves.
They live in the woods.
They live in the woods. And then finally rounded out with a Treeman as well, which has a Befuddlement of Mischief. So both of the Treemen are kitted out to be a little bit more tanky.
Yeah.
I just like this list. I hope it does well. I don't think it has the thing. It doesn't have the tools that the Wood Elf lists that are threatening to win events have. But it does have lots of trees, and I'm here for it. The Lorax said, I speak for the trees, and the trees say, fuck you. So I think this will be a really fun one to play. Every time I walk into the Element Games in Nottingham, I have to stop myself from buying a Treeman Ancient. Genuinely, I'm like, I just want one. They're so cheap by Games Workshop model standards for a 400-point character. I do want one. Instead, as you saw earlier, I ended up buying the Drakes.
2 dragons for however much. That's good. And I think it would be great to see an Army of Infamy for Wood Elves that is only trees. I'm assuming that will be a definite in any book that comes in the future.
Yeah. And hold on, where are we at now? So we're at Chaos, and then the order that everyone's saying that they're going to come in is High Elves next, then Beastmen, then Wood Elves. So we're 4 down the line. So maybe March next year. April, sometime around there.
It'd be interesting to see what speed they release them at, because Chaos Warriors coming out so quickly after the Dwarves have come out. Obviously, I know the Dwarves are delayed, but was the intention for it to be every 2 months, or are they now got to a point where the scope of the project has expanded enough that they're going to do them every month and then try and do something a bit different in a few months' time? Because that would be amazing to see if we could see it before the end of the calendar year at least, but that might be wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah, no, I don't think we'll see all of the armies done before the end of the calendar year. I wouldn't want them to. I think, because then we'd have 2 years of a release cycle where you go, oh, what are we getting? It takes quite a while to send things to print.
Yeah.
I've been told it's about a 6-month lead time from when the rules get finalized to when something goes to print.
When it
So
comes out, yeah.
I don't know if that is still true, and especially now they're moving towards a slightly more online model where you don't have to have as many copies printed because they sell the PDFs, or the general's handbooks that you might get in AOS and 40k. They've desynchronized the points from the books that they sell, so then they've got a little bit more flexibility with those. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see them all wrapped up, maybe this time next year. All of the base armies have an arcane journal, and also maybe we'll have one more army. We'll see about that. But yeah, that's about it from me. Any closing thoughts for you before we wrap this one up?
No, I think it's an exciting time to be part of Warhammer: The Old World. I think at this point, we are.
You know how I know it's an exciting time to be part of the Old World? It's a fucking day of the week that ends in Y. Fucking love this game.
You can end there.
Hell yeah, brother! Oh no, we can't. We have a podcast
What?
question. We have a podcast question. The first of big thanks to More Robot Wars / More Dark Elf Content, who did ask.
What does he want? He doesn't know what he wants. He wants everything.
Oh, I see. I thought you were saying like didn't know what he wanted in terms of the question.
No, I haven't read the question. I've not been well prepared enough. I looked about 15 minutes before we went live, and there was no question.
The question was, amongst units which have been commonly taken, which do you not understand why / fail to see the hype? There's probably a few, given how stubborn big fans of each army can be. I think that's really interesting. And also, I think Lewis has gone. So I think that's a difficult one to say. So if you look at the sort of good armies, or the armies that you see a lot, for me, one that I've done a video with the Duke, ex Triple Crown Wargaming, about Bretonnians. We did a deep dive. That'll be coming out in the next few days. Hoping to get potentially the first half of that on Wednesday. But for me, Grail Knights, I understand that they are the punchiest unit in the book, but I'm not just take more Pegasus Knights and more characters. So I think Grail Knights, I don't. Yeah, there we go. That's the sass that I've come to expect and love from More Robot Wars. Says, but Lewis is the one I want to hear from. So I've said Grail Knights. That's my first vote on that. Have you got any thoughts for overhyped units, the ones that you don't really understand why people love them as much?
I've had one experience into a Chaos Dragon, and I killed it with Skeleton Warriors. So I have yet to understand why Chaos Dragons are so hyped, but that's based on one encounter.
I think that Chaos Dragon might not have been tooled up the way that it should have been.
It really killed that Skeleton Champion. It really definitely killed him. And then I brought the Skeleton Champion back, and he really killed the Skeleton Champion again.
It might be a skill issue then.
It continued.
So I'm not going to accept the answer of a Chaos Lord and Dragon. That's not acceptable. I'll go for another one while you're thinking of your an actual answer. Gorgons. At the start of the edition, when people were still working out how to wheel, taking a couple of Gorgons to deal with the big enemy dragons was quite nice because you were probably going to get them into combat. Now we've got dragons that are more tooled up, and also people are better at avoiding the Gorgons. So I think Gorgons probably just sit on the shelf for me, which is a real shame because Beastmen don't really have much that they can replace them with. So, yeah. You got an answer?
Do I have an answer, Ed? I'm feeling like there's some ranged units that people seem to keep putting in to their armies that I'm yet to see do significant damage. So, I mean, I don't know if it's to a general point things, just sort of the archer units, things like that, even things like Peasant Bowmen. I know they're very cheap, but they literally do nothing, and then they just die.
But you have to take at least one unit of peasants, so I think that's usually...
you can take like the men-at-arms and stuff, can't you? So I'm struggling a little bit with archers in general, like basic archers in general. I can see like war machines and some of like the gunpowder weapons and things like that, but
I don't dislike archers, and this is actually a topic that I get into with Scott when we're talking about just sort of choices in the book, but especially if you have to take the archers. I like having small skirmishing units that have incidental firepower because it deals with enemy small units that have incidental firepower, and otherwise they end up being sort of like a full activation to deal with, whereas if your opponent's got 5 Empire archers that are scouting forwards and you're running 12 peasant bowmen, odds are you're going to do a lot more to them. If you stand still and you're shooting at long range, or let's say Yeah, long range. You're hitting on 6s, but so are they when they're shooting back
Yeah.
at you. So you maybe kill one first turn round and they kill no one. And then next turn you kill another one. And then they're down to 3, and suddenly this is a fairly useless unit. So
Yeah.
I quite like them on that basis. So I've said you're not allowed to have that one either.
Leave me alone, Ed.
Right. I know this is 25 minutes after we normally end, but you don't end when the bell rings. You end when I dismiss you. Give me a good answer for this question.
I'm going to take your question and turn it into a shout out for the 4 people that watch my lore video and leave me very nice comments. So thank you to everyone that leaves me nice comments on my lore video. I'm calling that an answer. There you go.
Yeah.
Piss off.
Yeah, that'll do. Perfect. All right. Thanks for watching. See you in the